What's up guys, NepentheZ here and welcome to the FIFA 21 official gameplay trailer. The premiere is due to start at 4 PM, which is in just 5 seconds time. We're obviously still a couple of months away from FIFA 21. Due to COVID and whatnot, the release is delayed by about 3 weeks in total. But it's usually that time of the year right now where we start to get lots of information about the new game. Obviously, normally, as per last year and the year before, Gamescom would be coming up in the next couple of weeks, which is where we'd find out a whole bunch of new information on all the different game modes, the gameplay trailer, and all the other things. Today, I guess we're going to find out about what's coming in the gameplay reveal. Now, what is obviously very interesting as per usual about the gameplay trailer and the gameplay reveal is that it is never usually representative of what the game will actually play like once people start to understand the meta and the overpowered kind of combinations and just everything in general that is broken. But it's always exciting seeing what EA's vision is, even if that vision never gets executed, because they can't control how people play the game. And because, in my opinion, because they don't have open testing, because it's always a closed or even invitational only beta to test the gameplay, people never find out what's broken quick enough. And, we find out what's broken initially after 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. We'll get a small gameplay patch. Then people will find out what's broken again a little bit after, and we'll get a new gameplay patch. And then it's like they're on to the next game cycle. So that, there's never too much by way of getting the game fixed and in a way that is perfect. And I think that's a mistake not having an open beta. If they just open, like there's obviously a game when the demo comes out or whatever, if they just open the beta up, let people play online, put a weekend league in there and allow people to have like one player pick or something to take into the actual official FIFA 21 game, that would be pretty cool. And then what would happen is people would just figure out what's broken very quickly and EA could address it before the game is even out. But of course, I'm not in control, I'm not in charge, and it's not about, like I say, not about my vision. It's always interesting to see how EA want people to play FIFA and how they design the game to be played versus how it eventually gets played when the game is in full release. So I'm excited to see what new things we've got and what new features we've got and how good this gameplay is. So let's get into the initial trailer and see what EA have got for us. Gameplay features.
Rewards you for your creativity and control both on and off the ball, with more intelligent player positioning, better scoring opportunities, and player-controlled runs.
I like player-controlled runs a lot. If you can tell people where to run and when to run, that's big.
Last season, dynamic one-on-ones put you in charge of
no, they didn't.
battles.
They definitely
in
didn't.
FIFA 21, agile dribbling lets you unleash your creativity to go past the defender. Show off some fast footwork to leave them lost for words. Hold down the right shoulder button and use the left stick to get close control over the ball. See how Sterling uses his quick feet to take it around the defender and lays off that perfect through ball. Or do it in style with the new skill moves like the bridge dribble and the ball roll fake to explode past defenders. And in defense, counter the oncoming attacker by using your muscle to stop them in their tracks.
Looks decent. I like this. The creative runs is something I'm very interested in.
In past seasons, you rely on the AI to make the right runs off the ball. Now you've got more control over your attacker's movement in the build-up. Get inventive and control your teammates' runs with directed pass and go and directed runs.
I like that a lot.
Tap on the left bumper and a flick of the right stick sends Salah into space before he dispatches the return. Or lock onto one player to take matters into your own hands.
Oh, that's interesting. Almost let that... Well, do I like that? I don't know. Letting the AI do the work for you almost there.
Players are always in the right place at the right time. Now they have that same level of positional awareness in FIFA. World-class forwards like Sergio Aguero hold their runs to stay onside. Creative playmakers like Kevin De Bruyne find the spaces to play those incisive through balls. Midfielders like Fabinho shut off passing lanes. And defensive giants like Van Dijk block more effectively when they get in the way of shots and crosses.
Okay, so more AI auto blocks from high-end defenders. That's good. Maybe that's a cynic in me.
FIFA 21 also smooths out those defense v attack free-for-alls when the ball goes loose in the box with a refreshed collision system.
Okay, that's good.
You'll see less falling over and more natural outcomes when players fight to be first to the ball.
anything positive attacking-wise, I like a
Your
lot.
feedback to unlock creativity in FIFA 21. Switch on new manual headers and send headed shots and passes exactly where you're aiming.
Okay, there's
Dispatch
one
the
way
ball
to fix
into
heading, I
space for your
suppose.
teammate to run onto with more effective long through balls. Master those skills? Competitor mode gives you an idea of what it's like to play against the best FIFA players in the world, giving your opponent better skill moves, dribbling, and all-round tactical awareness, so you can take it beyond legendary.
Great tackle.
But
Of
don't worry
course.
if you miss your chance. Have another go at striking it just right with new gameplay rewinds in kickoff mode for a second shot at perfection. That's
Interesting.
a quick tour of some of the biggest features come into gameplay in FIFA 21. With the all-new attacking system, smarter positioning, better scoring opportunities, and player-controlled runs, you'll be rewarded for flexing your creativity and control in FIFA 21. And there's much more to come in career mode and FIFA Ultimate Team.
So nowhere to pro clubs again, sadly. And then the pre-order is there again. I want to see if EA have released an information piece about it. They have indeed. Oh wait, the FIFA 21. Wait, we've got our first FIFA 21 pitch notes already. So this is where we'll be able to, before I go in and like watch, maybe watch that again. I don't know if I will. Here is pitch notes. So a deep dive into gameplay news on FIFA 21. Hey FIFA community, welcome to this year's...
Mate, how you doing? Welcome back to another video.
Cheers, Spence. Welcome to this year's deep dive into some of the changes and updates going into FIFA 21. First off, we hope you all staying safe and what's been a very interesting year for all of us, and we're wishing you and all of your families the best as we navigate through the summer months into launch. As you'll see below, there are multiple features to go through in FIFA 21. Based on community feedback, we want to give you as much context in these changes as possible. Before we dive into specifics, please note that we are not discussing the PS5 or Xbox X version in this article, and more updates on those will follow later this year. However, all listed updates in this article will be present on both generations of consoles. Let's get into it and talk about the specifics. So first is player personality. Oh, so does it just go down? Yeah, it does. So before we dive into FIFA 21's features proper, let's touch on a concept that you will see mentioned throughout this article, which is player personality. One of our goals is to ensure that world-class players can perform as effectively as their real-life counterparts, showcasing the personality of players who are talented in multiple areas and shine brightly in the world's game. To achieve that, we're increasing the number of attributes that are used to decide each action's quality, animation, speed, and effectiveness. For example, in the past, a through pass used short or long passing attribute to determine quality. However, in FIFA 21, a through pass is a mix of short and long passing, vision, and composure attributes. And this, first of all, is good, but second of all, needs to be disclosed fully. I don't want to be left guessing what it may or may not do, how it does or doesn't work. I want to just know how it works, you know? One thing that kind of bothers me just reading about this already, though, is if the world-class players are going to get these player personalities, does that mean, again, that if a non-world-class player gets a big boosted card, they're just not going to be at the races like this year? You know, if they don't have a certain skill move or weak foot, if they don't have certain traits or body types, they're effectively as useless as anybody else. I don't like this whole narrowing the pool of usable players, especially in Ultimate Team. So I hope what EA do is, when it comes to giving players a player personality, I hope when they upgrade players in Ultimate Team, they also give them the ability to have these player personalities that make them as usable as anybody else. This change will allow us to take player personalities to the next level, and you will see this term used as we highlight spots where this concept will have an impact in FIFA 21. Agile dribbling. Agile dribbling is a brand new way to keep close control of the ball in FIFA 21. Obviously, we saw that in the video there, and it looks okay. It looks like it's going to be the sort of thing that for the first 3 or 4 months is going to be unbelievably broken and very easy to abuse. The one thing I will say, which is much like when holding left bumper in FIFA right now, is you can see Son's stamina is really low because he's using the R1 dribbling. I don't personally like that. I think this year EA got stamina wrong. I think they kind of like abused stamina on attacking players way too much when they had the ball. And defensive players never really lost much stamina at all. Like you see Ashley Young there, barely losing that much stamina considering he's trying to track this ball run of Son there. So I hope that isn't like a permanent change. Then contextual agile dribbling, the mechanic is optional, but is enabled by default. When enabled, it makes your players automatically perform agile dribbles in certain situations. For the example, when in a 1v1 situation versus an opponent. So basically it makes it a bit easier. I don't know if I mind that too much or whatever. Creative runs is definitely something I like the look of. And definitely something that should open up a skill gap. You know, if you see a certain player defending a certain way or has a certain formation, you know, if they're using 3 at the back, you can use player runs to get in behind in the wide spots. If they're using like 4 at the back, you can use player runs directly through the middle, especially if they run defenders out constantly. You can definitely work the ability to put your players in certain spaces and get into the hard areas. And against, for example, this year against one depth drop back, this kind of ability would have been sensational to have, because you would have had just way more control over your attack. I like this a lot, and I'm glad it's in, and I just hope it is what it seems to be. This one, however, I'm not too sure about. So the directed pass and go, decide where your teammates make their run after a pass, immediately flicking the right stick in the right. Oh no, that's okay actually. So that's just, again, it's almost like the run, right? So this is the directed runs, and then a direct 1-2, so you can just see where they're going to go afterwards. I don't mind that at all. It's this one that I don't like at all. So this is the player lock that we saw in the gameplay trailer. Pressing both sticks at the same time to lock to your current player when in attack. When you're locked to a player and pass the ball, the CPU AI will take control of the on-ball player, allowing you to move your off-ball player to ask for a pass back in a better position. For more control, they say, whilst also saying the CPU AI will then take control. Flick the right stick anytime after using player lock, described above, to switch and lock to another player, taking control of your teammates and movement along the way. So one thing that I'd be concerned about with this one immediately is you can have up to 5 players performing a directed run, directed pass, and go simultaneously. Yeah, that's not bad. Is if defensively you can lock on to just one player, you can essentially just let the AI defend for you even more than ever before. And letting the AI defend has always been a problem because of auto blocks and AI blocks and all the AI tackles and all the benefits that you get with allowing the AI to defend. It doesn't really let you know. It does say when in attack. I hope it's not when in defense. I hope it's only when you're in possession of the ball that this feature enables. But even then, if you could just keep hold of this player that they've selected there, you can essentially let the AI attack for you. And like maybe in squad battles, that would be quite nice because it just saves you from having to do work. But in general, I personally don't like this. I think this reduces the skill gap a lot. I think this allows people that just aren't very good offensively to just kind of get away with it, let the AI do some of the work for them and hope for the best. And again, it'd be one of those things that, like, EA's vision, they obviously have a reason why they put this in there. I think this is going to be one of those things that gets abused heavily when we come to competitive FIFA at the high end. So we'll have to see how that one goes, but I've definitely got my reservations on the player lock. I definitely like the directed pass and go, and I definitely like the directed runs. I think they're both really cool features that are important. So they'll talk about here as well with positioning both offensively and defensively. That run there to get into the space is very nice. I like it a lot. You know, he runs into that space there to come and get the ball. What you do after that, we don't know. But they did show Sergio Aguero holding his run to stay onside, and he just didn't. So I want to go back and have a look at the gameplay trailer and see where is it. This one right here, and just go back to that part where they showed Aguero kind of trying to stay onside. I think it was a little bit after here. Long through balls, it wasn't. It was just after here, wasn't it? Maybe, yeah. Was it there? Let me go back and listen to what they were saying. Natural control system. Oh, here we go. Positioning awareness.
The world's best players are always in the right place at the right time.
They sure are.
Now they have that same level of positional awareness in FIFA. World-class forwards like Sergio Aguero hold their run.
He says he holds his run to stay onside, but he's literally hasn't. He is offside in the image there. He absolutely hasn't held his run at all to stay onside. What I want from this, and especially from, again, not high-end players, from high-end attributes, so that even players that get boosted from being low-end like players that get boosted up, I want him to curve a little bit into this space here and stay along the line here with Robertson, I believe that is, and then curve back around. So, you know, like curve, like if you follow my mouse, so Aguero makes a run kind of like up here and then in there to stay onside with Robertson, because when it gets to him, he is a yard or two offside there. Like, yes, he gets back onside just afterwards, but if you make that pass, like you probably would make that pass, I mean, I probably would have made it here already, but if you make that pass now, he's offside. So this positional awareness, I personally don't think EA have got, like, I'm surprised that they put that clip in the trailer, given the fact that it directly goes against something that they've shown to be a feature, I suppose. With that being said, I hope that the the positional awareness is a good thing. So attacking positioning attribute impact. The position attribute can impact many elements of attacking personality and the specific behaviors below scale according to the player's attributes. This means that an attribute of 85 might feel good and have pronounced effect, but 90 is significantly better and 99 is exceptionally superior. And this again is good, but only, again, in my opinion, if chem styles are nerfed. Because right now, you know, you can basically put a sniper on any player in the game. And look, so Ansu Fati has 84 positioning, and with a sniper he goes up to 89. With a Deadeye he goes up to 99 positioning. So if what EA say is that 85 might feel good and have a pronounced effect, but 99 is exponentially superior, the addition of chem styles just again like closes any value that the attributes actually have in game and what you get out of that when looking at these little screens below with like the impact that it makes. So onside and offside runs, awareness to know when to slow down and the time to run the perfect stay onside. This behavior will be overridden when using fast build-up tactics and or getting behind player instructions, as the intent of those is to focus more on using speed to break down the defense. So this is positioning low. And so this is somebody basically with low positioning versus someone with high positioning. So they just hold their run a bit more. Again, this would definitely be something that we have to feel when we're playing the game. But I think that little stop before running on again is actually going to be more harmful than good. Whereas this one, I think on the left-hand side there, I think if the player just plays the ball quicker and smarter as a human player, I think this offers better skill gap. You know, if that ball gets played in first time instead of taking a touch and then getting played in, versus here where, yes, you got the ball and they've showcased it to be a goal for the cutback. I just don't know personally if I would enjoy that. Again, we'll have to wait and see to actually get into the game and play the game itself. You know, we can only assess from what we're seeing right now. Passer readiness runs. Understanding of when the ball possessor is ready to make a pass so the player can time their run perfectly. High attribute players will show intelligent timing and movement based on where the passer is facing and moving. This behavior will be overridden when using fast build up or get in behind. Decision making time and intelligence. The ability to make faster and accurate decisions on where and when to move. High positioning attribute players will decide where to move quicker and smarter. And then passing lane analysis, understanding of spaces to determine where the next best move to receive a pass is, providing more options for passers and teammates. Behaviors that will only happen when a player has very high positioning attribute. And then open up space, ability to create more separation between attackers and defenders when the defense is tight, or to provide more passing options. Happens mostly with diagonal runs where there are available spaces. And I hope and think that this is EA's way of allowing a counter to things like drop back one depth or narrow defense. You know, what they're saying is the ability to create separation between attackers when the defense is tight. They're basically saying, we've heard you, we're doing something about getting rid of drop back one depth. This should hopefully be it. So we'll have to see how it actually is when it comes in. Ideal crossing positioning, understanding the best open space in the box to beat defenders during dangerous in-play crossing situations. This does not apply to set piece plays. Fake runs in the box, creating fake forward runs and pulling back to available for a cutback for pass options or change it. I wonder if this is like a trait, you know, because I would like my attackers to have this kind of a trait, but it would be interesting to only know when they do. Like, let's say you have got a Sergio Aguero and he has the fake runs in the box. You know that when you're playing with Sergio Aguero, he's going to make that run, then drop back for you. But obviously, if you've got a player that just does it randomly based on like literally random chance, the amount of times that you're going to end up trying to put a through ball in and the player makes a fake run. So that'd be interesting to know how and when and where this comes up in game. Chance creation support. AI forwards are more aware of the lack of passing options and will drop back into the midfield to support teammates in order to help build up play, which is nice. Defensive awareness attribute impact. The defensive awareness attribute can impact many elements of defending personality and the specific behaviors below scale according to the player's attribute, exactly as mentioned in the attacking session above. So run tracking, two-man marking to prevent counterattacks. That's really not, again, this for me seems like something that is there to beat one depth drop back players, or at least to balance one depth drop back. Two-man marking to prevent counterattacks. Ability for two high attribute defenders to mark a striker so they have limited space to avoid a counterattack. Love that. Requires two AI teammate players, each with very high defensive awareness attributes. Defensive midfielder diligent tracking. The ability to intelligently mark and track runs by attackers without giving up or leaving them open. They will track dangerous attacking opponents, even if they are already marked by a teammate due to the scale of the threat, which is nice. Maybe makes it a bit too easy to, like, like the vibe I get from this, you know, I don't personally think FIFA is a pay to win. You can always play, right? But in the early stages of FIFA, the first month or two before everybody's team starts getting up there, if you're the kind of person that has just spent a bit of money on the game and you have got your Fabinho that they talked about, or you're just high-level defensive players and your high-level offensive players, from what they're seemingly saying as the high stats are the more important things at this level, you're just going to struggle so bad because the AI will do a lot of the work for you. So again, we'll have to see how it plays in game and what they determine as exponentially better versus still, you know, notable. Getting our hands on the game will be important for that. Defensive midfielder cutting passing lanes. Active versus passive winger behaviors determines how the active wingers can get when having to perform defensive duties such as marking, defensive positioning, and tracking runs, and fullback cooperation. So what are they showing us here? Fullbacks with high defensive awareness attributes are more effective during runs on the far side of the pitch. So he's literally tracking the run. I like that. I do like that. So this guy, he's tracked here, and that now because he knows, so this ID07 guy versus ID22. So ID22 recognizes that ID07 can't get the ball or is in a bad spot, so he presses in to cover the ID10 run. I like that a lot. I do like that. And, you know, we can only control one player at a time on the field, so it is important that the AI is smart. And I think that's what we want. I don't want it overpowered. I don't want it to make unrealistic tackles or blocks or runs or interceptions. I just want it to be intelligent like an actual football player would. Like if a real-world football player there was marking ID07 and then ID10 moves in, he would push up. And if the ball comes out, then you deal with that afterwards. Then you push out again and let your shape get back in. But I feel like in previous FIFAs, ID22 would have just stayed there. ID10 would have just run through, had a shot and scored a goal. So that's definitely a good addition. And then the smoother encounters, the smoother collision system. This again, we could watch these little pieces of information here 100 times over. This is one of those things that we will only know how valuable or impactful that's going to be when we get into game situations and it happens. You know, we can look at it as much as we like, but I don't think it's going to necessarily be something that we can talk too much about right now. Then enhanced CPU AI and competitor mode, which is quite nice. Headers, which is very good. I'm glad they've changed headers. I'm not necessarily too happy that they've made it manual, but it is obviously better than what it is right now, because right now you would miss 99 times out of 100 without any exaggeration from the areas that these balls are getting played into, which is one of the reasons, again, why drop back one depth is so valuable, why crossing is so relevant. Crosses in FIFA 20 are actually quite good. Heading in FIFA 20 is utterly shocking. And so that it's just not a viable method. And, you know, I like the fact that with them improving heading and hopefully crossing and player intelligence runs and such, I'm hoping that players like Harry Kane or Romelu Lukaku can become usable at high levels in FIFA because their positioning is so good, their runs into the box are so good, the way they deal with the AI is so good, and heading is going to be good enough for them to be used as well, which would be nice. And then defending, based on community feedback, we improved the controlled tackling system. Well, we've heard that before, introduced in FIFA 20 to make it more accurate than before, with players better positioning, leaving themselves in order to perform the ideal standing tackle. A lot of work went towards adding player personality for tackling, allowing the top defenders to stand out and be more accurate when predicting where the ball will be in order to make the best tackle. Multiple attributes are used for differentiate the effectiveness of players when performing a tackle. For example, when performing a standing tackle, we will now use a combination of the standing tackle, defensive awareness, and aggression attributes. So I don't mind that at all. Better than just having standing tackle attribute. We also reworked shoulder challenges and seal outs to make them more effective and more realistic. How many times, see what we're seeing on screen now, how many times, guys, did you put your body in between the man and the ball like that on FIFA, and then you just carried on going through the gap, and then the player came out the other side with the ball? It was very, very frustrating. So it's good to see that they've focused on that and worked on that. Shoulder challenges have now been reworked to create a better contact between players to avoid the defender overshooting their opponent. Seal outs are when a defender puts themselves between the attacker and the ball to take back possession or shepherd the ball out of play, and they've also been re-engineered to create a better positioning between the player and the opponent. And then to perform a shoulder challenge or seal out, tap the L2 button while side by side blocking. We're excited to be refreshing blocking in FIFA 21. The team has completely rewritten the blocking system and added it to the controlled tackling technology, creating more reliable and realistic blocks when defending shots and passes. I don't think blocking was ever a problem. I don't think we need more reliable blocks. I think I think blocking was very overpowered personally. To ensure the contrast between good and the best players, we added player personality via their attributes to make sure the system is balanced. A player's attributes will determine the effectiveness of a block, how far away the ball from a player can block, how long it takes to start the block animation, how well you can react and transition into a different block animation if something changes, and how long it takes to recover from a block. So it does seem promising. Again, like through all of this, for head-to-head, all of this sounds brilliant, right? They seem to have done a lot of things with a lot of the gameplay issues, but for Ultimate Team, with chemistry, with chem styles, and with players getting boosted stats, I want to know how it impacts in Ultimate Team and what they've done about that. And if they just remove chemistry and chem styles in general, I would be genuinely happy with that. And then passing, of course, we looked at as well. Lots of new passing setups. For crossing, there's now a whipped cross, a driven cross, and a driven ground cross. The assisted crossing, this is now default settings, similar to how a semi-assisted setting worked in previous FIFAs. Semi-assisted, we have updated this to bring it more in line with how the other semi-assisted settings work, while making it more manual with less assistance than in previous FIFA titles, but also more rewarding, as you'll now have more control and the benefit of reduced error on crosses. So that's pretty nice. And then other improvements, adding the pass openness concept as covered in through pass section to ground passes, which is very good. Improvements to the targets and trajectories of lobbed and lob through passes. Ability to perform last second animation transitions, allowing you to change directions for your lob or lob through passes. Multiple new animations to provide quicker, more effective passing players. Better trajectories for clearances to avoid teammates, opponents, and your own goal. So that's pretty good. I personally didn't think it was ever something that bothered me too much, but that is still pretty good. We're only halfway down here. Animation fluidity. We improved our animation transition system, allowing for faster transitions which support a more fluid and responsive experience, especially a passing, shooting, ball control, dribbling, and player movement. Player personality was also added into the animation quickness, improving reaction times for great players and decreasing the time it takes for players to perform the actions, which is very good. So increased control. There's new bridge and nutmeg skill moves. We'll have to see again. There's no judgment on these until we can get into game. Cancel foul advantage. L2 and R2 now allows the player to ask for the foul instead of keeping the advantage of the play, providing you with more agency to decide which option is better suited for each moment, which is very good. Instant hard tackles, RB and O, the ability to perform hard tackles instantly without having to hold up or power the tackle button. Setup touch 2.0. RB and right stick flick in a direction. Improvement to setup touch, including faster animations, keeping the ball closer to the player and performing more accurate shots. Improved finesse shots. The curve attribute will now have significantly more influence over a finesse shot's ball curl. There has been a focus on using player personality for these shots, along with the cleanup and rebalance of finesse shot animations, which is nice because, again, we've been playing a lot of pro clubs recently, and in pro clubs, finesse shots are overpowered as hell, but in Ultimate Team, they're almost irrelevant. You know, driven shots to the near post is where it's at. All players into box on goal kicks, which is nice. Improved super cancel mechanics, which is nice. So hard super cancel allows the player to go into free move in any situation except when dribbling with the ball. Pass and shot cancel allows you to cancel any pass or shot request and continue dribbling with the ball. Another way to cancel a shot or lob is by pressing XA similarly to take a fake shot after the passing animation has started, which is how I think I used it this year. And then skill moves cancel, so L2, R2 as well, allows you to cancel the skill moves. More settings, so auto flare passes on or off, which obviously requires the flare trait to do. Auto clearances on by default on. Players will perform clearances contextually in appropriate situations, or off, then outfield players will never perform clearances unless the clearance button is pressed. This setting does not apply to goalkeepers as they have their own clearance system. Auto shots on. So this is, again, something that we saw actually in the championships last year, where an AI player scored a goal for a person because they just took the shot because it was the appropriate situation. I personally think that this should be off by default. It's one of those things, again, where it's like this just reduces the skill gap. If you're not fast enough to register that a pass has gone to a player and to press the shoot button, the AI should, in my personal opinion, never, ever do that for you. But the same with clearances as well, but there you go. Obviously, EA do want to keep this casual. They want people to just be able to play the game normally without it being at an extreme competitive level. Player lock on by default, contextual ad draw dribbling on by default, assisted headers on by default, through ball assistance on by default. So this is basically just new assisted controlling, cross assistance and direct run indicators on as well. So yeah, basically they're just the new assistant settings. We'll play around with that when we get the game again and try and find the best balance for the most control over the game, but also not having it manual to the point where you're being hindered by playing against somebody who is a lot more manual. Skill move improvements. We made some very important changes and improvements to skill moves in FIFA 21. General improvements: reduce the penalty and error for chaining skill moves. Increase the number of complex skill moves that you can chain without the ball getting away to 3, up from 2 in FIFA 20. Complex skill moves includes Elastico, Drag Back, and La Croqueta. Well, I think drag backs this year were so overpowered. I wish that they would do something with that. Increase the number of normal skill moves that you can chain without getting the ball, getting away from 2-6 from 3. Normal skill moves example include the stop and turn, the fake shot, and the heel to heel. Easy skill moves, ball roll, step over, can be chained without penalty. Note that these numbers above represent the values possible if you execute exactly what is laid out above, and will vary slightly in other situations. For example, chaining up to 6 normal skill moves is possible, but that value would change if one of the skill moves was a complex skill move. Remap drag back to be L1 and R1 and left stick in 180 degrees of the player's facing angle. So they've tried to make the drag back harder. Do you remember in FIFA, what was it, FIFA 19? One of the skill, I think, no, whatever year it was for the low driven, I think it was where you double tap shoot. The next year to do low driven, you now have to hold LB and RB. And they did that exactly here because they know that with how people hold controls, it's a lot more challenging to have your hands in a situation where you can just regularly do that. And I think that's what they've tried to do with the drag back. Instead of just being RB in any direction, you now have to hold L1, R1, or LB and RB, and the left stick in 180 degrees of the player's facing angle. So if you're at 160 degrees or 150 degrees, it won't sacrifice for you and allow you still to do it. God knows what you'll do instead. And then they've added player personality to drag back, making it slower for lower skill movement rating players. And that, again, is brilliant. Technical improvements to create more reliable skill moves detection system. Details around some of those can be found in online gameplay responsiveness section below. Ball distance was made closer for rainbows and flicks. Greater leniency to allow the triggering of a skill move when the combination of the right stick, left stick inputs combined with the direction the player is facing are not exactly perfect, and prioritize skill move execution over sprint requests. All access skill moves. All players can now perform right stick skill moves, but their effectiveness depends directly on their skill move rating and attributes. I like that a lot. Lower rated players will perform slower and more error prone variants of some of these skill moves. These include low skill roulette, heel to heel, feint and exit, drag back, spin, stop and turn, simple rainbow. Skill move cancel. Some skill moves can now be cancelled. New skill moves added, feint forward and turn, drag to heel, ball roll, fake turn, which we saw obviously in the trailer right there. General improvements and community-based feedback. Community feedback is one of the main pillars for our gameplay team's focus while working on FIFA 21. We've been running forwards thinking feedback sessions since the launch of FIFA 20, even despite being kept physically apart by ongoing global situations. As a result of all this feedback, we were able to identify main priorities of FIFA 21 on early in development, and we're thankful to our players for continuing to provide us with feedback and support. So on online gameplay responsiveness efforts, we looked at that in previous pitch notes. It's not something for me personally I really want to read or get into now. It's something that will wait to talk about when the game comes out and when we start experiencing how good or bad the gameplay is. But it is good to know that they are talking about the gameplay responsiveness efforts and are aware of them and are trying their best to monitor them and improve them. That is obviously good news. But again, it's one of those things where we just can't we can't judge it yet. You know, we have to wait. Quality of life improvements. Thanks to feedback, we've identified a few changes that could be made in gameplay to create a more enjoyable experience for everyone playing FIFA 21. The removal of some celebrations, including shush and AOK foot celebration. We're planning to make more changes in this area, so stay tuned. Which again, I think is positive. It just removes some of the kind of toxic atmosphere in FIFA. Removal of the walkback cinematic after goal in online matches. Hallelujah. Reduce the length of goal celebrations. This is all brilliant news. Brilliant news. Reduce the waiting time for multiple set pieces, which had all been set to 30 seconds at the launch of FIFA 20. Kickoff is now 10 seconds, throw-ins is 12 seconds, goal kick is 15 seconds, corners and penalties also 15, free kick is 20 seconds, and kick-in is 15 seconds, Volta only. I personally would still think that's too long. I don't think you need 15 seconds to decide where you're going to take your goal kick or corner kick or penalty kick. It allows a bit of time wasting, I suppose. We'll have to see. It's better, which is better. We'll just have to see how that changes. Auto skip some animation sequences when the ball goes out of play in online matches. For example, when a player goes to fetch the ball in a throwing situation or when the keeper slowly walks to put the ball down for a goal kick. Reworked logic to improve detection of when the half and end of match should finish, which is nice. Competitive and core community feedback. We pay special attention to very specific changes that were being constantly brought up through our competitive and core community players during our online feedback sessions with them. No ball collision with hands. Outfield players' hands and forearms are now permeable and should not collide with the ball, preventing handball situations from influencing the play in any way, which is, again, brilliant. When we say permeable, we mean that the ball visually and physically will pass through the player's arm from below the elbow to his hands. So, again, I like this. I like this a lot. Quick tactics, team press timer. We saw feedback around players being able to waste time in sometimes unrealistic ways, and that it was difficult for the defending team to try and get the ball back in these situations. To address this, we've revamped the team press quick tactic to no longer result in a constant pressure defensive tactic. It now triggers a temporary auto press behavior on demand and with a cooldown timer that prevents it from being overused, which is very good because obviously team press was very, very, very overpowered. Manual switch to offside trap player, allowing manual switching to a player that is performing an offside trap. Ground pass assistant, jockey acceleration, deceleration, goalkeeper save consistency, goalkeeper positioning, which is good, throwing positioning, and chip shot accuracy, which is good because chip shots were terrible this year. General improvements, we've also have a couple of new features that are exclusive to kickoff mode, FIFA attributes and rewind, and some other improvements to be worked on for FIFA 21. So this is kickoff mode. So attributes, wait, does that mean they're putting... This feature modifies players' attributes to provide an enhanced and friendlier gameplay experience. When turned on, the increase in relevant attributes makes players feel more responsive and accurate. So basically just making players feel better on kickoff mode. That's not really that relevant for us and for what Ultimate Team does. So there you go. And that's showing how it works. And then this replay rewind session. Now, I don't play kickoff. I haven't for many, many, many years. I don't particularly mind this too much. It doesn't bother me as long as it's not in online gaming or in Ultimate Team anywhere. I'm absolutely fine with it. There are lots of other mechanics that are smaller changes we've added this year besides everything mentioned above. To mention some, hundreds of new animations to refresh and polish multiple areas. New goalkeeper antics on penalty kicks. Turned off the trainer's default for all difficulties except beginner. New rule settings to call for a handball for goalkeepers when handling the ball outside of the box. Turned off time finishing mechanic for beginner through professional difficulties. Multiple new celebrations including a finger swipe and selfie next to ad boards. Player signature celebration for Kylian Mbappe, Erling Haaland, Steven Bergwijn, and many more to come. And that's about it. So, I mean, far be it from me to get very, very excited about some changes because there's definitely a few things in there that I'm not overly keen on. But it seems like for the first time in a long, long time, EA are trying at the very least to address all of the changes, all of the things that we hated in FIFA 20 and prior years and improve on them to make a far more balanced, far more enjoyable game. The problems that comes with that is that it opens up a world of new things to exploit and to kind of like abuse. And it's how that they'll handle those things that I think will determine whether or not ultimately FIFA 21 is a very good game or a very bad game, much like FIFA 20 and FIFA 19 before it. But in general, I feel extremely happy with the changes that they're attempting to make, the things that they've added, the things that they've removed. I think they're doing and have done a very, very good job with it. But that's going to be the end of the video for today, guys. So if you did enjoy it, be sure to leave a like, rate, and comment. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. But for now, guys, I'm out. Peace.